Bloody hell, man! You're right. I'll leave that in, that'll be funny. So anyway, your favourite writer slash poet is using YouTube as a promotional platform. It is back! Ah, you bastard! Yeah, like I've got snood. Or mainstream snood. Or anti-mainstream snood. Yeah, anti-mainstream snood. Maybe it's like hipster snood. Hipsters. So any hula hoop, in this video I'll be reading out the second chapter of my first novella, Awake. Now if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you can click this annotation here, which will take you to the first part of my video. First chapter. And there you can catch everything you missed out. Now as I said before, in the first chapter of my video, in the first part, these videos where I read out chapters, they're going to last a little longer than usual. Now because I need to invest in a better camera, the camera I'm using now is going to cut off around about the 10-minute mark. And so obviously there'll be like a jump cut and abrupt cut to the next part of the video, where I read out the rest of the chapter. So if you want to read along with me, then click the link in the description box below. And without further ado, I present to you Awake, Chapter 2, Dirt and Death. Inspector Mitch Crosby and Sergeant Sarah Dames were looking over a very peculiar death. The victim was Fiona Davies, 56 and brunette. She worked at St George's Hospital as a receptionist, and she was killed at 2 AM in her own bed. This was all in the report that Sergeant Sarah Dames handed to Inspector Mitch Crosby. It did not take long for Mitch to spot a mistake. Sarah, you didn't know down how she died. Yes, Mitch, we do not have a cause of death. There isn't any sign of blood, so she couldn't have been stabbed, and we've examined the whole body either. So there's no bullet holes. We've tested her blood, and as far as we know, she was perfectly healthy when she died, and there are no signs of poison. Also, there are no traces of cardiac arrest, and we swept her neck. There's no DNA prints, or any signs of rope or her being strangled. So, you'll just say she dropped dead, Mitch joked. He was blonde, and from York, and he was well liked and very funny, but he could be serious when he wanted to be. That's exactly what I'm saying. Sarah was a London girl in her 30s, and she always tried to put a brave face and everything. She had brunette hair and always carried herself strongly. Do you think she just died in her sleep? Mitch asked. Nah, her eyes are open. Okay, so we have a case where there are no obvious signs of death, no witnesses and no evidence, the policeman summed up. It was a complete success, Sharon said quietly. Gravity smiled. Glad about that. I'm getting a little rusty. Shadow laughed and went off to the crowd, leaving Gravity and Bliss by the pavement. While Shadow was begging amongst the crowd, Gravity was thinking of everyone else who could not or would not help them. Countless eye doctors, social services, and various hospitals. Then she thought of the few people who did help them. She thought back to her grandparents. Soon after me and Shadow had moved out, we went to our grandparents, where we were always welcome. Our grandparents were a lovely pair, much better than our original parents. We spent a happy 4 years there. I was about to start nursery, when my grandmother started to come down with Alzheimer's disease, and then she went to a care home. We were welcome to stay there, but we knew we would only get in the way. So, we thought that our parents had maybe decided to change their minds, and so we went back to our old house. But we went back to find a whole different family living there, and that our parents moved soon after we had left home. We went back to the care home and told our grandparents we were leaving. They tried their best to get us to stay, but it never worked. So we packed what we had left, and with £600 our grandparents given us in our pockets, we left to start a new life out on the streets. Shadow came back and sat down next to Gravity. He managed to collect £2.21, while Gravity begged over £1.79. So, over a period of just 1 year, the £600 they'd been given by our grandparents had been spent. They tried to ration the money, tried not to indulge themselves, buying what was needed. but the money had slowly dwindled away. You know that snotty receptionist, Fiona Davies? Shadow asked. Yeah? What about her? I don't know, she looks really familiar, but I can't place her face. Gravity shrugged. It's possible you've seen her before. I mean, we could have walked past her in the street or something. I don't think it's as simple as that. Oh, it's getting dark now. We should find a doorway. Gravity shivered. It's so cold. We were going to run away. I could have been to Hawaii. Shadow laughed and fell asleep. Name, Nikki Lambert. Age, 32. Hair colour, brunette. Eye colour, brown. Height, 5'6". Weight, 15 stone. Place of birth, Burley in Lancashire. Date of birth, the 5th of the 8th, 1978. Job, ophthalmologist. Place of work, St Anne's Hospital. Time of death, 4 p.m. Place of death, victim's house in the kitchen. Cause of death, unknown. Mitch read the report. He sighed. He was new to his job and he liked it. His department was in charge of murders and thieving. Turned to Sarah. Sarah, is there anything that relates this case to the first? Sarah shook her head. I disagree. I'd say there is a lot that relates to these two cases. Firstly, both these victims died in Iron Hose, and both of them are women. That could be a pattern. So, I think that's just a coincidence, and it isn't a lot to go on, really. I hate to break it to you. Mitch shrugged and locked the report in the drawer. Gravity woke up as usual, with cold feet and a numb bum. There was not a lot of space in the doorway, as she, Shadow and Gravity all had to sleep there. It still suited their needs. Shadow rose about 15 minutes later. He looked up. By the light, it still looked to be early morning, maybe 7 or 8. But he suspected that some shops or supermarkets would be open. We should go get breakfast, he suggested to Gravity. She nodded and Shadow helped her up. They walked down the road. Originally they had lived in Ashford in a poky little cottage. When they left their grandparents they started begging around their hometown, but it was too awkward. There were too many people they knew, old friends and old teachers. Once they even saw their parents, who walked past them without a second glance. Occasionally some of their friends would invite them home for the night, but the siblings knew that they could not stay there for long. They had to find their own way. This led Shadow deciding that the two siblings should move to London, where the pickings were just a bit richer and the crowd was slightly more generous. Even though a supermarket might have been open, Shadow thought that there was no state to enter somewhere like that. They would have been thrown out immediately. It had been years since the pair had washed, and now the dirt was accumulating. Occasionally, ticks and lice would work their way into their clothes and blisters fur. And because of this, Shadow thought it would be a lot better if they bought some food from the local corner shop. The pair also had some plastic water bottles which they refilled whenever they could. For example, just to save as much money as possible, they would go into public bathrooms and fill up their bottles with tap water. Any money saved could buy food, which was always in short supply. After they had finished eating, they walked around London trying to find a busy area. It was the same old routine: eat and beg, eat and beg, eat and beg. Gravity wanted that to change, but the chances of that happening were very slim. Mitch was reading the Metro newspaper, which he had picked up on his way to work. It was on page 7, which had been continued from the front page story. He turned back to the front cover and read the main headline. St George's Hospital got up in smoke. At 10:30 a.m. on the 5th of January, St George's Hospital was absolutely obliterated in an explosion caused by an unknown source. 5 C4 bombs were let off in various locations across the ocular ward. Bombs were let off so suddenly and without warning that so far only one survivor has been reported. Hospital consultant Gideon Jones. This is his statement on the incident. I thought it to be very strange, because only 3 months ago I was involved in a much less serious bombing at St Thomas's Hospital. You might ask how I managed to survive both incidents unscathed. Well, when I was a consultant at St Thomas Hospital, I had this strength steel desk. I don't know how I got there or why it strengthened, but as I heard the first screams, instinct kicked in and I dived under the desk. This took the brunt of the explosion and saved my life. Maybe both times have been a targeted attack, but I'm not going to let this affect my day-to-day life. You might call me mad, but I think that desk was put there for a reason. Perhaps I have a guardian angel. When I was transferred to St George's Hospital, I knew I had to keep the desk, so I took it with me and it saved my life again. Mitch put the newspaper down and thought. His only lead, which had been in hospital, had been destroyed. Mitch's radio crackled into life. Inspector Crosby, you there? He recognised the voice as the Sergeant Sarah Dames. Yes, Sarah, I'm here. Mitch, HQ wants us to drop the murder case and try to figure out who caused the explosion at the hospital. What's to figure out? There's no elaborate scheme to work out. Chances are it's probably just terrorists. Would terrorists really attack a hospital? Well, it's a smart move. It wouldn't be hard to kill people who are near death anyway. But I suppose you're right. Who's going to take over the case? It's been unconfirmed, but HQ wants us at the hospital tomorrow. Okay, sir, I'll see you there. Mitch sighed and reached into a filing cabinet before drawing out a form. Whenever somebody died, there was always plenty of paperwork to fill out, and this would keep him busy for the rest of the day. So, I originally wrote Awake when I was about 14, and I wasn't as good a writer as I am now. So, hopefully that explains any inconsistencies to the whole police hierarchical structure, because I don't know the relationship between inspectors and sergeants and such. Well, I didn't at the time anyway. And I know there's a lot of other mistakes in there too. But yeah, first draft, so I will improve it. And also, I would appreciate any suggestions on a new chapter name. I never liked Dirt and Death. And I also know I got a bit lazy with hospital names. How many hospitals do you get named after saints? I'd probably get a lot of them. Anywho. So, anyway, thank you Pat for watching. You're superlative. As always, James says copyright, but you'd be stupid to steal that until I've improved it. But don't steal it anyway. Breaking one of the 10 commandments. So, as my old dad used to say, I don't care whose it was, just clean it up when your mother gets home.